Okay. Excuse. Ouais. Hi. So we'll start the conference now. So welcome to tonight's conference on how to succeed in your international career, organized by the Career Center and JUNIA ALUMNI. And before we start, I let Mr. Laurent Moussu talk to introduce himself.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. I'm Laurent Moussu. I'm the VP for AI ISEN, which stands for ISEN Alumni. We bring our support to JUNIA Alumni for this event, and we thank them to invite us. I would say a few words about our ISEN international presence. AI ISEN Alumni not only gathers ISEN engineers from ISEN Lille, but also from Toulon and Brest, which are our sisters or cousin schools. We sums up around 10,000 alumni. Internationally, we have 10 or 15% of ISEN engineers working abroad or having worked abroad. For example, we have significant presence in North America, in US or Canada, in Asia Pacific, in Germany, and also, as you will after, in Flemish Belgium. We organize locally with our colleagues from HEI or either some events or a meeting after works. For example, in Montreal, we have regular after works all together. Just to give you a few examples of what ISEN are working internationally, we have in Asia Pacific a VP for Schneider Electric for all Asia Pacific. We have also a guy named Christophe Callow, who is VP at Apple in Cupertino in California. So in generally, as you will learn with our other speakers, making a part of your career internationally is often a good step to very interesting and high positions in international companies. Last thing I would say with our colleagues from HEI and ISEN engineering school, we can help you when you intend to work or to have a internship period abroad, and we can help you to settle, to give you information, to meet some people, to prepare your stay internationally. Okay, that's all I had to say, and I will let the conference go on.
So thanks, Mr. Moussu. So we'll now head to the conference. Tonight we have the pleasure of hosting Bertrand Lambelin, Didier Lespagnol, Henri-Xavier Delecourt, and Thomas Blervaque, and unfortunately Dominique Collard, who couldn't make it tonight. So as usual, there will be a 45 minutes to 1 hour talk and questions prepared by the commissions. And then we'll head to the public questions. So everybody have a good conference. So we'll now start our conference by the intervention of Bertrand Lambelin.
Hello, good evening. So Bertrand Lambelin, so I'm 33 years old. So I've done HEI, graduated in 2011. I've done IT in Force, and then I got OME, Organisation et Management des Entreprises. I'm married, 2 kids. This is important, and sport addict. So maybe, do you have my slide? Maybe it's gonna be maybe easier. So it's going to come. So I wanted to speak about my values because this is something that I would say discovered during my experience abroad because it's very important. The first one is my family. I'm very curious. I'm a loyal competitor and also committed. You will see, and I think we're going to discuss about this one after all, but yeah, values is something that is very important, and even more when you're working abroad. So I started my career with a VIE contract for Decathlon. So I was based in Vietnam, Ho Chi Minh. I was working in textile production for 18 months. So it was very interesting, very challenging. So I started to discover all Asia, south of Asia from there. Then I came back from Ho Chi Minh to France. Basically, I was based in Roubaix for a small company named Ellipse, based in Roubaix, sorry. And then I've been to Hong Kong for nearly 7 years. I was there to base and set up the company there. I was managing the quality, the production, purchasing, and also part of the logistic and supply chain. Also very interesting, very challenging. I was working with China, Hong Kong, Vietnam, basically all the countries around Asia, and mainly, I would say, industrial aspects and production. And then 1 year ago, I came back with my family. We came back to France for personal projects. I totally changed, not my mind, but my work. I came back to my family business, that is real estate business based in Lille. So it's absolutely different. I'm not working anymore in plastic or textile, but now I'm working for selling houses and flats and so on. So new challenge is not anymore, but I'm working for my own and working with my parents and so on. So that's it for me.
So we'll now let Didier Lespagnol talk.
Okay, so hello everyone. Will be difficult to come after Bertrand. Before the presentation is coming, so that's not this one. I would like to make a small test. If the people who have a parents that is not French born, mother, father, whatever, grandparents, if you could raise your hand. Okay, so I want you to check very carefully to those people, because those people have probably more things to say that we have to say today, because they are living day by day an experience with a different cultures or half of a different culture. So that's really some guys you should discuss with during your day's activities. They asked me to prepare this talk to give you a short presentation. And well, there are a few messages that I wanted to pass. The first message I wanted to pass, I will go in the back because it's easier for me to see you as well. The first message is that during your student years, you are preparing this career experience. That means you have opportunities through internship, through Erasmus, through discussion with all exchange programs that you can do. You have opportunities to work, to exchange ideas with abroad culture person. So for my part, I graduated from ISA in '93. So as every ISA student, I first work in a farm. So you see a nice cow, you imagine what I did for several months. I had the opportunity in my second year to go to an exchange program that probably some of you have done at JUNIA. So that's also a nice experience that you can try to see if you like working abroad. During that period, I had also some training period to do. So I work also in a hydrogen peroxide plant. You recognize the chemical formula, of course. And I work as a lab assistant in that place. I had the chance also to work for Le Safre in the yields industry during also my trainings. I worked in Israel, so that's also a funny story that I can tell you. That Israel has a good, I will say, model in terms of farming experience. So I say, okay, I have to go there to make an experience of a different way of doing agriculture. In fact, I arrived there with just my flight tickets that I had to pay and an address in Tel Aviv. And when I arrived in Tel Aviv, they told me, okay, you are going to work in that kibbutz. Here is a bus ticket. The train station or the bus station is over there. Go over there. Okay, great. I go to the kibbutz. It was in Haifa. It's in a national park. So it was a very nice scenery. But in fact, I was working for the army, and I was mixing some lead and tin to make some composite for bombs. So that was my agriculture experience. So that means there are some surprises. The plan is not always running as it should be, but it's part of your experience. And I had also the chance to make a training period in Germany, in close to Bergen-Zelle, which is close to Hamburg, where we had to work in the fields to select some seeds from different research lands that were used there. So my point is that through your student experience, you will already have a kind of taste, a feeling. Does it really fit to you to work abroad? So that's something that you should take the benefit of those years to test that. If we can go to the next slides. After a few things to understand is that abroad you are managing difference. That means everyone is different. Everyone has differences. You will have some teams that are from different nationalities. You will work with some colleagues, subcontractors, some suppliers that are also different from you, from your culture. So you really have to be humble. They are not like you, and you are not the one who is going to make the law, so you have to adapt yourself. What is important also to understand is that they are all people. So for the people who know a bit Chinese, that's the character for a person. You really understand there is one head, 2 feet. So all the people are the same. And they are all humans, so you have to respect them, you have to understand them, and you have to speak their language. And one thing that is missing on the presentation I did not mention. So for example, you will tell me what I did not mention on the picture. You don't know. Music. People who are musicians have a better ear and better capacity to learn a foreign language. So you can see from my accent that I'm not a musician, but musicians have usually a better ear. So don't hesitate to come back to instruments that you have done in college or high school. Don't hesitate, because that's usually helping for learning foreign language. Okay, next slide, please. When you are abroad, you are alone. So that means there are things you should cherish. So there are friends. You have friends here in France, but you have friends also abroad. You have to allow you some time to spend with them, to enjoy life, enjoy moments that should be praised. You have also your family that is not here. So working abroad means that when there is a very nice event in your family, you will not be there. So that's something you need to accept when you are leaving France. You should accept that someone is dying or there is a sad event in your family. You will also not be there to comfort the people that you cherish. So it's also something that you have to understand. This is part of the package. You have to understand that. Do sports, do activities, do hobbies. That's also important to have, I will say, a healthy mind and be able to have a good equilibrium in your activities at work. and arrange your home. That means you have many ways to do. For myself, what I did, I always prefer, instead of having a company that is giving me a package to purchase furniture, I prefer to spend that money to bring my furniture, my stuff, to the country where I was living. That's a way for me to have my home and to have somewhere, a place where I can be comfortable in a very different environment. So that's a few messages I wanted to pass to you. There is a last page, and this is a question that you will have to answer yourself.
So thanks a lot. We'll now let Mr. Henri-Xavier Delecourt talk about his experience.
Yeah, so you'll see soon on the slides that my experience is a bit, I would call that hybrid. And basically the only move that I did is moving from Paris, I'm Parisian, to Lille. And that was really the biggest move I did. Today I live in Lille still, but I'm working in Belgium. And actually this first move from Paris to Lille was already a shock for me because the life in Paris and the life in Lille is really completely different. There was already a cultural shock, different language, different habits, different food as well. So it's like going to a foreign country. Next move I did was, well, actually I was curious. I wanted to discover countries. I wanted to discover cultures, mainly cultures, not really countries. And for this, I decided to work in Belgium, not that far away. That give me the ability to both discover a new culture, but also to stay close to France, where my family is. And by this, I overcome one of the challenge to be far away from your family and far away from your home. So I could do that in one shot. Started to work in Brussels. So I was doing the journey back and forth for something like 1 year. That was discovering a new country for me. Then I was hired by a company that is located in Flanders. And that's important because the difference between Brussels, which is like multicultural, a lot of foreigners, different language as well. When you go to Flanders, you have to justify that you're French in order to speak French. So I had to show my ID several times to show I'm French, I don't speak Flemish, so please speak English to me at least. So a shock, also a shock in the company that I was working for, because the way that Flemish people are working is completely different than the way that French people are working. I will just explain briefly my first day experience in this company, where I was first introduced by my manager to my team. So I went there to greet everybody one by one. The day after, as a good French, I went to the desk of everyone saying, hi, how are you? What did you do yesterday? And they all stared at me like, what the hell are you doing? That was not to be done in Flanders. So when you come to work in Flanders, you come, you go to your desk, you open your computer, and you work. There are even some computation of the time that you spent from the time that you tick at the door until the time that your computer is on. And this is removed from your working time. So you start to work 8 in the morning, you go to lunch, break 45 minutes, not 46, not 44. You start at 12, always with the same sandwich in the same box. I think everyone that went to Belgium knows about those boxes. And then at 5, you're done. Outside of the work, they're really open-minded, they're really friendly, really warm. But at work, it's to work only, which is a shock for French people. From there on, I started to get some exposure externally by going to different countries. So there, I changed position, being working for the technology R&D departments, where I was involved in several projects. And there I went to starting 2 different countries. The first one is USA, and you will see that the flag that I've put there is not really the standard USA flags. The reason of that is because I was working with the special country in the USA. That's Pocatello in Idaho, and Pocatello is driven by the Mormon. And the Mormon and the USA, it's not at all the same. I discovered that's the first time I went to the US. So it's a mindset, it's a culture. It's all different from one region to the other of the US. I also had a lot of exchange at that time with South Korea because I was doing some technology transfer from one fab to the other. I'm working in the semiconductor area, by the way, for automotive. So it's a well-known business nowadays. So I stayed there for 4 years, doing back and forth trips between USA and South Korea. Then I moved to a department that, yeah, if you have to experience a department, I would advise to go to a quality department. Why? Because you're learning a lot of things, but you also get a lot of exposures to a lot of different cultures. I was doing customer quality for worldwide companies. And for this, I was traveling a lot. When I say a lot, that was completely random. That was typically for short stays, so no longer than 1 week or 2 weeks maximum. But that was like one day going back and forth to Japan, going to Korea, then moving to China, Japan, go back to the US. So that was really traveling 80 to 90% of the time on request. So when a Japanese customer is asking you to come because they need management attention, you don't have any choice. You have to go. Okay. I use Japanese, but I could use German as well because German is the same. And basically all the customers are the same. In this type of business, when there is a quality problem, you're stopping production lines. So you have to go, you have to explain, you have to justify, you have to explain what will be solved. I'm yeah, maybe more referring to Japanese because the Japanese quality mindset is a bit different than the rest of the world. Then 6 years ago, I moved to a different position that is a product line managers. And in this position, I'm more exposed to customers, but on the positive side, trying to build business with them. And for this, I'm traveling at least once a year, more twice a year to the main countries that I listed there. And in terms of international exposure, the other part of my job is also to drive a team, which is located in Czech Republic, Slovakia, and USA. So I think I managed to get the right compromise with this international exposure experience, but still getting the comfort of having a home still in France. Thank you.
So thanks a lot, Mr. Delecourt. And now for our last talk of the first part, we'll welcome Thomas Blervaque.
Good evening. I studied at ISA nearby, and one of the big steps of my international career started in this room. In ISA, what we do is in the second year, we travel. We have 6 months to go visit the world. And this is a rupture. And when I came back from New Zealand, we had an intervention in this room to introduce one new school in China. It was Master Cheng. And I came back from this meeting, and I just came back from 6 months, and I went to see my future wife, and I told her, okay, I'm going in 2 years. And it was here, and it's a bit surprising to talk to you about international experience from this room. I joined Master Cheng in 2008, and since then I stayed in China and came back 3 months ago. My wife joined me there, and we have been working in China for the group Le Safre in first byproduct management, so selling the production that is not so easy to sell. Byproducts are fat oil production that we have to valorize through different markets. We were building a huge plant in south of China. It was a big step for the group Le Safre, and we were there to face the biggest competition that we have. It is a Chinese company. We were there on their land to bother them, and we had many struggle to sell our byproduct. We had to adapt our market. We have to adapt our mindset to sell our byproducts as fertilizer, but also in industry. After several months working in this industry, I started working in engineering to build new plants. And after that, I took the control of the plants that I built, with a really difficult way to live with my family, because my family was living about 800 kilometers away from me, and I was living in the plants every week. And for the last 18 months, I was alone in China, and they were in Hong Kong. So we have to adapt when we are abroad. Things happen, but it's also full of opportunities. It's by choosing this with my family that we succeed building ourselves a rich experience. We've got 2 kids that learn Chinese and French and English, and they are all really multicultural. We are really proud about the way they are, and we are coming back in France with a rich experience to give back to our family, because as Bertrand, I'm taking over my parents' business, my grandparents' business, and I will use my international competency to start new businesses abroad. So this is the new challenge that we are taking as a family. And thanks a lot, Didier, for your presentation, because indeed, having our furniture together, and they arrived this morning to our house, is a piece of something that we want to keep, and we feel home because we have those furniture. So it has a big sense to me. Thank you.
So that's it for the first part. We'll now head to the prepared questions. And the first one is, which opportunities led you to work abroad?
So for me was simple. At the time I graduate, I had to join the army. I wanted to spend a nice period during that time, so I candidate in different companies to make what we call a VIE today. Was not the same name at that time, but whatever. And I got a company, so I was quite happy. I was Danone for Slovakia. And 2 months before, the company contacted me, once I have done all the paperwork and so on, that in fact the previous guy was hired locally, and so there were no more opportunity. And so I say, okay, so bad for me. So I was looking for plan B or plan C, what I could do, and they contact to me 1 month after, saying that there is a position in Shanghai. Are you interested? At that time, Shanghai had 1 bar, no McDonald's, and they were just switching from foreign exchange currency to renminbi. So it was not exactly the Shanghai that you can know today, or that you can have seen. So that's how I ended up working at the international, and I ended up to marry my wife, which is Chinese. And after 4 years in France, after my army experience, in fact, we wanted to go back to China, so that's how I worked in China for after more than 10 years.
For me, on my side, quite the same experience. It was for the VIE, so I decided at the end of HEI to contact Decathlon because I wanted to work with them. And so I was supposed to work for the supply chain, and finally I've been to the quality team as well. It was not the first plan as well, and since the beginning, in fact, I told them that for this internship, I wanted to turn to VIE contract for the first part, and so after 3 months, I think they offer a first VIE contract in Sri Lanka, and basically quite as you. After 3 weeks, they told me, oh, in fact, not. Someone decided that you're not going to Sri Lanka. So I was looking for something else, and 2 or 3 weeks later, they told me that they could send me to Ho Chi Minh in Vietnam. So I decided that was basically a very good plan B. I didn't know Vietnam as well, and what I wanted to do is basically it was a challenge, a big challenge, but you never know what's going to happen. So yeah, for me it was like this.
For me, that was as you see, I didn't have these opportunities. I really just got hired by a company that was an international company. I think the opportunities came afterwards. So by learning, by starting to move from one department to the other, from getting experience, then I started to get this exposure to the international worlds. So yeah, that's how we went with it.
I think some of the opportunities have to be provoked. In my case, I was looking for a hand of school internship, the MFE, and what I was looking for was a 6 months minimum contract in any company that could give me a job and a market study, because the master training is was about agribusiness. And I offered in my candidature always to sign for a VIE instead of just one contract. And I asked the company to allow me to write down my report. So basically, I signed directly a VIE. I finished my memoir, my thesis during my VIE, and I took about 1 year to write down my thesis. And after that, I joined Le SAF as expatriate in China to continue the job. So, and all along my career, each time there were a move to take, changing the domain of application or the work, moving from agriculture to engineering, then to management or production. Basically, there are plenty of opportunities to seize, and this is only your ability to adapt that is going to drive you and allow you to take those opportunities. Don't be afraid, take them and learn. This is going to happen. You will succeed.
So thanks for your answers. The next one is, when you all learned you will work abroad, did you set yourselves personal goals? And if so, what were they?
The only goals that we had was to come back in France when our daughter will be a teenager. So it was, and until she was about 13 or 14, we said, okay, we do whatever we want, and we see everything that is coming. This was our main decision or goal. The second one was to keep in mind to take over the company of my parents when I was coming back. So I was listening to them about their wish. So really simple goals.
My goal is to stay abroad, so I'm okay with my goal as of today.
Yeah, for me it was nearly the same as Thomas as well. I did not decide at the beginning. I didn't know that I'm going to get married and get kids, so I didn't know that I would come back one day, even if in part of my brain I would say that my family business was inside. But yeah, we decided to move, yeah, for the challenge and see what we'll get. We never know what's going to happen, and yeah, it was once again the opportunity to move and to go step by step to discover the world. So big challenge. Also, I think on my side was got the chance to get lots of travels with my family, and I think I wanted to build my own life. I mean, to move away from my family, to say, okay, I'm gonna start my new life in a new country. No one will know me. I won't know anyone, and we'll see what's gonna happen. So, and then yeah, I mean, some small move and kids come and then the family come and so on and so on. So we decided to come back.
And I had no special goal. I was just to a place where I think I could be useful. And when I decided or find out that was not useful anymore for me to stay there, I moved to another position. So there is no really goal or preparation.
Thanks. So as you all worked abroad, you had to adapt to a new culture and a new language. But did you notice other major differences with France? In the country? So when you arrived in the country, did you notice major differences other than language and culture?
For me, it's a difficult question to answer because yes, so I spent some time in China. Yes, there are some differences. You don't shake hands, you don't kiss people, you don't invite them, you don't invite your friend at your home, you invite them at the restaurant. So there are lots of small differences. You don't say no to someone who is asking you a question. You always say yes, you will do something. And after you find a way to explain to him that the answer is no. So there are some differences, but people are all humans. And it's not because you're discussing with a Chinese or a Flemish Belgium or Netherlands person that there are, or an English person, that there are really big gaps. There are really differences. Look around you in your class. Every person has a personality, so there is also adaptation to be done. And so for me, the exercise you are doing today with working with different people through groups, through practice that you do together is already a good exercise to face those small changes that you will find in any country. The big gap for me is pay attention when you see a white person that is speaking with you, for example, you consider, oh, I understand this guy. No, probably not also. So pay attention to that.
I still didn't get used to work in Flanders because the mentality is so different than the French that I can't get used to it. But what I do, I'm exposed to a lot of different countries, and I'm basically starting the morning with East, with Japan. Then I move over the day with different calls, China, Korea, and then move to the US. So it's constantly adapting the mentality, taking care, as you say, to pay attention to the guy that you're talking to. A lot is playing a role. You were saying that Asian people in general don't say no. Indian people say no like that. They say yes like that. So they're all the expressions, everything is different. When you talk to a US guy, you don't use the same tone as when you talk to a Japanese guy. You must show respect on one hand. You don't have to show too much respect neither. So it's a lot of a lot of political things, a lot of attention. One of the key or one of the biggest problems that I have nowadays is how to write an email. Who to put, because we are all exchanging by mails, of course, but who to put in an email? Who do you put in the to list? Who do you put in the copy list? Do you put the manager? Don't you put the manager? It's perceived so differently from one country to the other, and then from one people to the other, that it's all this type of adaptability and try to understand the people. That's the key in order to be able to talk to them, understand them first, and then they will understand you.
I think Didier said it right at the beginning. It was to respect, and everyone is with one head and two legs. And when you arrive to China, everyone said that it's so different. I didn't pursue them so differently, and I really loved the experience working with them. And for me, it was a pleasure every day. So good surprises, not challenge.
Okay, so. Do you want to?
Yeah, maybe one point. For me, I would say when you're abroad, you're on your own. I mean, you're far from your family, from your belief, and this is you need to be open-minded. Basically, you think coming from France, this is the way we used to do that. Abroad is totally different. For everything, for the bank, for example, once you arrive to Hong Kong, they will tell you the difference between the debit card and the credit card. So when you're coming from France, you say, okay, I get my credit card, and say, okay, I want a credit card. Basically, in Hong Kong, it's totally different. So you need to be super open-minded, and you put everything that you think you know. And basically everything could be different, and it's not wrong or good. It's just a different way of thinking. And yeah, in it's kind of communication. You have to be totally open-minded and learn from the other one. And what you think is true is maybe not totally true outside, and it's maybe not totally wrong as well.
Thanks. So now that you all came back to France to work, or most of you, do some of you still keep in mind the idea of going back abroad to work?
For me, for the next 10 years, I would say it's going to be complicated, because with the family business is not, I would say, normal job. So I'm not taking it for 2 or 3 years or 5 years. So I would say for the next coming 10 years, probably not. But for sure, it's somewhere in my mind and with my wife and my family. So why not one day to open a new chapter of my own company and to make it abroad? Who knows? I don't know, but maybe yes.
It's more and more difficult, I will say. I came back to France because we have 3 kids, and in China you cannot have double passports, so we had to choose one nationality. So we chose French, and we decided at the point that French education is important for them. So we came back to France, what was 10 years ago. We said, okay, maximum 2 years in France, that will be enough, and we go back somewhere else. We are still here, so You see, the plan is not working as usual, as you prefer, in fact. It's more and more difficult when you have children and they go through education because they don't want to move, and you can understand that for sure. So that's no real plan today, but if opportunity come, you have also to think about it and not to think too much, actually.
In the same case as Bertrand, I'm in this new challenge for, I think, about 10 years. But in these coming 10 years, I will be going abroad. I am already traveling since I came back, mostly in Europe, but I will do also North America. And this for me is new countries that I haven't done so far. So I will continue my career in international, but in a family company.
Okay, so now with some retrospect, would you change some aspects of your different experiences?
None. I took everything. I was happy, and today we are happy where we are going. So just take everything as it comes. Don't think too much. I agree with you. Is when you have an opportunity, take it, because if it passes, just someone else will take it. So just take everything that is passing to you, and if you want it, basically.
No, for me it's the same. It was very great in the last 10 years or even more. It was very good, and I won't change anything. Yeah, agree. You never know what's going to happen. So it's, I would say today it's very, maybe not today with the COVID, but normal day, it's very easy to take a flight and make, I mean, I'd say to go in 10,000 kilometers away, it's fine. So it's never a one-way ticket. You never know what's going to happen and where you're going to be. So can try. Let's have a try and we'll see what's going to happen.
And similar, I have nothing to change. You cannot have regrets. You just have to look forward. So there is nothing to change.
Yeah, same answer.
So we'll now head to your questions. So don't hesitate to raise your hand and we'll hand you the mic.
There's one question over there.
So, okay. Yeah, it's working. So I guess I have to present myself. I'm Eli. I'm at HEI for 3 years now, and next year in 2022, I will be graduated as a civil engineer or whatever you call it. I have 2 questions for both of you. First thing first, as you may know, the COVID-19 pandemic had and still have today a huge impact on our formation. And do we have to worry about the fact that we didn't have the opportunity the past years to find an internship in an international company? And will this be a bad thing for future career in an international way, should I say? And then my second question was, do you have any suggestions for people who are planning to do a VIE? So in French, it stands for Volontariat International en Entreprise, I guess. So do you have any suggestions for countries? Like, do we have to focus on art skills or technical skills in a European country where we'll be more like in a familiar ways? Or do we have to focus on a faraway country where we can improve our soft skills or whatever it is? So yeah, this is my questions.
Well, I can give you a few starts of answer. First, don't worry too much because you are not going to choose your VIE or your next training. It's the company or the people who will offer you that opportunity. So you will not really decide anything. Be more yourself. Look at what you like. Be natural. Show them that you have some skill where you have some talent, where you have some interest. And there are probably things that they will look for that you don't have, but you can compensate with what you can bring and what you are good at. So really don't question too much yourself. In terms of COVID, I will say don't worry. I hope there's no teacher here, but if you make no internship, I will say forget it. You are not making your requested training period. Do something else that is valuable for a company. You can have a summer job, you can have a traveling experience, you can have a humanitarian. You have many ways to occupy your summer. So if you cannot find a training period, do something valuable for your culture, for your personality, and that will be recognized by a company, especially if they want to send you in a country where you have to adapt.
The other thing is that you and we are all in the same situation of less traveling. So what is happening to you is happening to all your classmates and is happening to us as well. It's putting some troubles to us to travel. And we are all compensating by Visio and by other things, and business is still running. So same for you. And without traveling so far, you can still go to Highland or countries where it's open and train your English, or go to work in some farms or woofing. Or there are still opportunities to do less far, less tropical things, less Asia or less South Africa or South America, but still many opportunities here in Europe, and is open.
Maybe one last word, but remember that the COVID is impacting the companies as well. So the mentality and the HR, all the processes are changing in the companies as well. Teleworking, as an example, that was out of the question in France, especially a couple of, even less than 1 year ago. Now everybody is moving to teleworking. So that's a worldwide impact. So if you have to think, try to anticipate what the company will need in the future in view of the current situation. And don't look too much backwards.
Yeah, and for me, don't look for a VIE contract. You just focus on which company you want to work with based on your values, on what you think, and try to learn from the company on internet as well. Yeah, look for the company and not for the VIE, and show to them what you are, what you want, and basically if potentially they will create this opportunity to you. Most of the VIEs contracts that you can see on the website, on CV Web or something like this, basically all of them are already booked. And big company, basically they found the good people and then they open, and so officially they need to drop it on the website, but basically they found you already. So look for the company first, and then and work on the values.
All of them are not booked. Some of them, they are here to catch you, even if the position doesn't exist. So you can still apply on CV Web. Some of them, they are here just to catch new profile and to make sure that our HR here, our HQ here in France can still recruit people. And sometimes there is no real job, but you will be moved to another position or another area. But CV Web's announce still exists and is worth to answer.
Hello, my name is Agathe. I'm in 4th year in HI in Smart Cities, and I want in the future to go work abroad in Japan or South Korea. And what scares me is the language barrier. So I wanted to know, did you study the language before going to these countries, or did you just improvise with English?
Yeah, I guess I'm the one with this for the question. So historically, Japan has, because of the World War, after the World War, there was a specific job that was created that was translator. Meaning that if you go to Japan, I never went to any meeting without an official translator. Mm-hmm. It doesn't mean that they don't speak English, but it's just that the job is there and they don't dare to cut this job. So you will have help. Now I must say, but that's the same for China, that if you're all by yourself, and you have to go somewhere, forget about it. I mean, just like taking a ticket, they're charging a lot by train in Japan. Taking a ticket, you just don't know. You see numbers, but you don't know if it's the time, if it's the platform, if it's the ticket number. So you would get completely lost. So getting some knowledge on the language is definitely key if you plan to be alone. South Korea, I would say, is a little bit different because you have the old traditional South Korea, but you have a lot of the new generation. You know, the Gangnam Style and all this Korean pop, but that's the reality. And you really have this cultural shock between the old traditional generation and the new generation. New generation, they speak all English, so it's rather easy. Korean language is also quite easy to learn and to understand because it's fairly logic. It's really, go on Google, try it, you will see it's fairly easy to speak and to understand. Japanese is another level, and I would say China is probably the worst because you have all these intonations in the way that you pronounce things that make it incredible. But yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
And I would like to add something about being a barrier, or for you. We know someone with Bertrand, someone who don't speak Chinese, spent 12 years there. His English is pretty poor. And he was the director of the Commerce Chamber for France. So by being adapted by your way to act, not speaking the local language is not the main way to adapt yourself or to live somewhere. You can also adapt even by listening the music as the intonation. You can have some way to understand what is the other person telling you. Not directly, but you can survive.
Other questions?
Hi, could you tell us what do you wish you had knew before you went abroad? What did you wish you had knew when you arrived abroad? Like, what didn't you know, and that you would have hoped someone tell you before?
What I thanks ISA to do is to send us abroad and to force us to do it, because this is how I discovered I was able to do it. So what I wish I knew is that I was able to adapt myself, and I did it through the 6 months program travel abroad, because you have to work and to adapt yourself to a new culture. So this is what I wish I knew before going, and now I just thanks ISA to give this to us, to let us move, and many schools are doing it now. So you will be adaptable.
I wish I knew that the first time I went to South Korea, that the black tie is only for funeral. Few tips and tricks that you have to learn, sometimes the hard way, but sometimes it's better to know. On another example, if you go to Japan, I think you probably know this. There is a famous video of the American president that went there, and that's bow, but he really liked boats like that, and it was far too much. That was below the expected level. So you really have to learn all these tips and tricks to go to these foreign countries to show respect. Just again, open-mindedness, show that you're interested by the culture, that you know their cultures, that you can understand it, even if you don't apply it. But that's a minimum. Yeah, and just to say hi, say hello, say thank you in the language is always well perceived.
I wonder what's the most difficult thing you have to do when you have to change from a country to another this way to move it. I mean, the social welfare, or also perhaps you have furnitures or personal stuff. And what's the more difficult to thing to have when you have to bring it, or maybe to change your papers, etc.
Paperwork, we'll say, is not such complicated for me. More complicated is you have to move from a secure, stable situation with people that you know to something that is totally unknown. So that's for me the most difficult, because you have to change from a stable situation to a situation where you have to learn the small tricks, learn the small habits of the countries, try to understand the language. So that's the most complicated thing.
Yes, administrative part is not that hard. It's going to be difficult for a few weeks, some months, but then it's fine. Yeah, what's difficult is to move your home. So your friends, you need to find new friends and all that kind of stuff. Some restaurants, something like this. You need to build your new home, and this is more, yeah, it's more difficult because it takes time, and you need to discover some people, and yeah. But this is also something that is good abroad, is that you can see that the French people, we like to be with French people. So when you move abroad, I would say in all places that I've been in the world, I would say very quickly you're around like 10 French people, 20 French people, and usually we are not meeting so much. We quite stay with French people because we need our home. I mean, coming back there.
I have, in my experience, the exact opposite problem, being that when I go somewhere, I'm always with local people, so they know exactly where I have to go. They bring me there to the restaurants to discover the life there. But the administrative part is a nightmare, especially to go to China, because if you want to go to China, you need to get an invitation letter. So to the company that you're visiting, it must be in China, of course, and then you need to get the visa based on this invitation letter. Yeah, 1 time out of 2, even more sometimes, it's rejected because it's a fake letter. They assume it's a fake signature, so you have to redo the process several times. So there are a few tricks that are not valid any longer. It's like you go to Hong Kong, and then in Hong Kong you can buy the visa directly, so you don't have to go to this old process. But I heard it's not working any longer.
So we have a question from the chat. It's, when moving abroad for an unknown duration, how do you manage your new relationship with your new surrounding and with your previous surrounding in France? Don't you think your project could be limited by your French surrounding?
Not limited, I would say. It's a gap for sure. Your friends, when they stay in France, they stay in France. But hopefully we have now, I'm pretty sure that with Didier it was totally different like years ago. But for us, with Skype, with Teams, with whatever, I mean, it's definitely easy to stay in touch with your friends and family in France. It's not the same, but still it's not so hard.
And one thing also is that you also, of course, you are limited in terms of contacts. But have in mind also that it's also a way to select your friends, because your real friends, they will keep contact with you. So that's also one way to make have a clear understanding of who you can count on, and who are the people that you have kind of good relationship with them, but you should not expect much more than that. So that's also something to have in mind.
Other questions?
My question is for those who are now running a family business. Was it something you always wanted, or did your international experience influence your choice?
The international experience influenced the return in one way, is that at one point we had to choose with my wife if I have to give up this dream to take over the company, or to keep being happy in this international life. We had at one point the really tough question and discussion to choose whether we are coming back as planned in my mind, or keep having this really rich experience abroad with kids that we are happy abroad. So this is what has happened, not the other way around.
For me, it was yeah, same as Thomas. When I left for abroad, I didn't know that I will come back to take it back. So it was in between, discussing with my parents and getting some kids. That's, yeah, maybe I think it was like 3 or 4 years ago. We decided with my wife, say, okay, we are moving back. But yeah, it's not an easy point. Usually we say that is why expatriation, you know, expatriates in companies, usually they go away normally for 2 to 3 years, because once you get it more, it's even more difficult to come back. And so, yeah, it was not an easy choice. Your life after 7 years is comfortable. It's your new home, your new life. And this is funny, but usually with people asking me, okay, coming back to France isn't difficult. Basically, for me right now, if even after 1 year, it's kind of expatriation. It's funny because I'm French, I have French passport, but basically coming back to France, it's kind of new expatriation. You really don't know how it works. You know, I've never worked with French people in French rules, laws, and so on. So yeah, it's kind of expatriation for me as well. But
there is something that we haven't mentioned much in our experience, but working abroad or international, yes, gave us much more opportunities in general, accelerate our careers, and make our job really fun. I mean, it's a lot of work, yes, but it's also a lot of opportunities that has been brought to us. And it's allow us to grow really fast in really professional and international companies. So at one point, yes, you have, regarding your question that was, did it impact your choice to come back? Growing fast make you sometimes having to choose whether you are still going to go back to something more tidy and familial business, or keep growing in a really nice company.
Is there any questions? Si vous n'osez pas les poser en anglais, vous pouvez les poser en français. Hein. C'est ça qui vous bloque. Oui.
Hello. In your opinion, how French people are perceived abroad?
Romantic.
We are speaking about cliché here. So usually French people have a good reputation. Probably not the same in all countries, but in Asia, you are usually assumed to be romantic, to be good at culture, to be a poor salesman. So there are really some cliché, but I will say it's rather positive.
The only most of the time is only English people who tell us that we are boring and troubling them when we are meeting our UK friends, but with other people is rather good opinion of France. It's still a good countries to world outside. So yeah, this is how we are perceived.
Bonjour, je vais la faire en français parce que j'ai trop honte. Je suis désolée. Mais du coup, je voulais savoir, en tant qu'étudiant français, vous nous direz que c'est quoi nos points forts en fait? En tant que Français, vous avez fait une école qui est sensiblement la même que la nôtre. Mais du coup, comment on peut se dire qu'on va être aussi bien, ou qu'est-ce qu'on peut apporter de différent par rapport à un local en fait?
Compared to Chinese students, we are much poor students. They are much more better than us for learning things. But what you learn in the schools here is flexibility, adaptability. You have some values also, which is not common for all the students. So you have usually a good reputation because you fit quite well in any country for when you come out from those universities.
I would say that we are also well structured. Maybe we don't have, we are not so precise or accurate in the study, and we are not as strong in mathematics or chemistry as our Chinese colleagues, because this is the only country I can compare to. But in terms of structure and ability to have an overview of the full situation, this is something that I believe we are better, and this is something that we can sell.
I don't know if it's better, but it's coming, I think, from the Latin cultures that we're coming from. I mean, say Chinese people, for example, they are not strict, but yeah, they follow rules and this is like this and so on. And basically French, we are more like, yeah, sometimes like this, sometimes like this. So yes, when we have to take some decision, I would say over, we are different than us. It's not better or worse, but it's different. And this is something that could be an added value for us abroad.
Just to emphasize whatever area, adaptability and flexibility, that's key. So I'm not sure that you will learn that at school. You just have to be open-minded, to be curious about the culture, to be, and that will help you to go anywhere and to adapt with any culture. And I think that in France, with the educational system that we have, we're pretty good for that.
So we have one question from the chat. It is, how did you take into account the family in your international career, and was living abroad a family project or your project?
I left France alone and came back with a family, so that was definitely my choice at the first time. Now it's really life happened like this, so it's really there is not a common way, and there is many different ways to do that.
There was my choice to stay in France because of the family, because I wanted to get my family in France. Now it was also a joint choice on this career move to be exposed to international travels, because you can't do that alone. I mean, if traveling 80% of your time, it means that you're never at home. When the teacher is asking to your kids, what is your father doing? The answer is traveling. That's all they know. So it's sometimes difficult. So it's a choice to make, but it's a family choice, definitely.
I met my future wife 2 months before to go to Vietnam. So basically I was lucky, and she was in ISEN, and so she followed me, and then I followed her to Hong Kong. So for me it was quite easy as well.
It was a personal choice that I obliged my wife to accept when I told her that I wanted to move again abroad. And it became a family choice when before we got married, she told me that she wants to join me there. And since then, it became a more family choice to stay abroad, and each time, every 2 or 3 years, to ask ourselves, how do we see the future?
So do any of you have last questions or not? I guess no. So do you each have last advice before leaving us tonight?
I will just repeat, take any opportunity, be open-minded. You have opportunities that are going to present to yourself. Sometimes you can provoke them, but sometimes they just come, and you just see them. And if you don't know how to do, you will learn. I will not say that it's the same for Didier, but I was not in construction engineering at all when I joined Le SAF, and I became chief of engineering during my time there. So I learned, and you are going to do the same. You can still learn, and you are going to learn your whole life. So seize opportunity and learn when you have them.
Yes, for me, it's open-minded and stay humble. So your school will give you a toolbox, and then you need to use it. And it's very super easy to go, and you can come back as well very quickly and very easily. So yeah, you never know what's gonna happen. So try it. Try.
The same with one additional word, just be patient. Opportunities are coming. You will work for something like 40, 50, maybe 60 years. So in your careers, you will have opportunities that will come. If you're looking for it, immediately when you start to work, might be challenging because the company is investing on you. If you don't bring any added value because you're too young, don't expect that it will send you abroad immediately. But believe me, that will come. If you're looking for it, that will come. Just, I think it was said by one of us, select the company. If you want international exposure, go to an international company. It sounds logical, but that's how it works. And then opportunities will come. Just be patient and be good at what you're doing.
Not much except to say that success meets preparation. So take opportunity of your education now to prepare your future step.
So that's it for tonight. Thank you all for coming, and thank you to our guests, and see you soon.